Hello, welcome to the Political Vigilante. There is a painting of this guy. That's the world. That's the light of truth, I guess. That's my set design. There's my surfboard. You are watching the Political Vigilante. I want to talk about an article that came out in the April 5th edition of TheIntercept.com, written by Ryan Devereaux. Attorney General Jeff Sessions plans to roll back decades of police reform. This is pretty disturbing, considering that under 8 years of Obama, we had, is it the worst police brutality ever, or is it just everyone has a camera in their phone and now we're seeing it more for real? But anyway, it was under Obama that we had Ferguson, that we had Freddie Gray in Baltimore, and on down the line. And when Ferguson happened, they started doing, the federal government started to get involved. And they came up with these consent decrees, compliance reviews. So existing or contemplated consent decrees between the federal government and local law enforcement agencies. So Obama helped set those up when it was mainly, I think, because of what happened in Ferguson. So Sessions, and this is why everyone was protesting him, me included, did not want this guy because of his record. He is not in favor of helping anybody that's of color or poor, and Trump said this repeatedly in his campaign. They show clips of it at the end of the documentary 13th, which is a fantastic documentary, by the way. If you want to get some real history on the prison system, the militarization of the police departments, watch that documentary 13th. It's very, very powerful. So Sessions has then issued a memo where he wants to start reviewing a lot of these consent decrees. And of course, anyone that's been involved with police reform, and clearly we need reform, right? There's a problem when unarmed people are getting shot. If a cop is shooting an unarmed person, that's a problem. And the video that you're seeing all of this pretty damning evidence. Like that one guy that just had his arms and feet up, and the cop still shot him in the leg. He's a black guy who just gets shot. The guy that bled out to death on Facebook last year, that was Facebook Live, that was horrifying. The cop, he said, "I have a gun on me." And the cop said, "I need to see your ID." He goes, "Just so you know, I have a gun on me, but I'm going to just pull out my ID." And the cop still shot him. And if there was no videotape there, the cops would have just said, "Oh, he went for his gun, man." If you watch the OJ documentary, all of those cops' police reports after they beat the shit out of Rodney King, they all said, "Oh, he resisted arrest and did all this stuff," and the video clearly said otherwise. So there's a serious issue in America. And then when you have the retaliatory shootings in Dallas and Baton Rouge of people just opening up against cops, this is a bad, bad, bad environment. This is another reason I was really terrified when Trump won, because I was like, uh-oh, now that happened with Obama. Now we have a president that does not give a shit. And, that's always the big Republican battle cry is, get the federal government out of our lives and no states' rights, no states' rights. And then, of course, when a state like California says, "Oh, we're going to be a sanctuary city no matter what," then Trump says, "Oh, we're going to pull federal funding." So they are. Republicans talk such a big states' rights game until it's like, oh, gay rights or marijuana or anything else. Then we're going to come in and tell you how to, they're bullshit. They're bullshit. So what this goes into is a memo that Jeff Sessions released Monday, calling on his top two deputies to, quote, "immediately review all department activities for adherence to the Trump administration's law enforcement agenda." Now, this wasn't that surprising considering Trump said he was going to do this. Trump's been true to his word, except drain the swamp. Yeah. The area sessions highlighted for review included collaborative investigations and prosecutions, law enforcement grants, training, compliance reviews, and more. The Attorney General's top two-page memo also took aim at existing or contemplated consent decrees between the federal government and local law enforcement agencies, setting the stage for an examination of numerous agreements and ongoing deliberations set in place by the Trump administration's predecessors. This is a problem. The whole reason this was set up by Obama was to hold police departments accountable, because what police departments do is it's called the blue wall. A shooting happens and they just all line up with each other no matter what. They're not going to speak up against each other. It's just not going to happen. So you needed outside reviews. And if a police department has a certain climate or culture, it's a problem. Like Baltimore. I mean, well, you had Ferguson, which you had a primarily white police department in a primarily black town. That was a problem. Baltimore had just this old school East Coast, police department. What they give it, those rock and roll rides or whatever. It was horrifying. And that was a police department that had the mayor was a black woman. The city council was primarily black. Half the police department's black, and they're doing that kind of shit. So there's a problem with police departments, and you need some federal oversight. But this is, again, I've talked about this numerous times. His whole thing is deregulate, deregulate. Now, all of his other deregulation is so him and his buddies can make money. I'm trying to see the end game on this, other than maybe it's just flat out racism. And he just wants to let the cops go back to doing what they can do and just gun people down. And, oh, yep, the cop was right and the criminal was wrong. And if it was a black male, it probably was a criminal anyway. So, yeah, let them do what they want. I mean, I don't know if it's just that basic horrifying racism or what, but this is pretty concern. It's raising a lot of concern, a lot of red flags. Jeffrey Robertson, legal director of the ACLU, told The Intercept the memo was disappointing to say the least. Sessions made the memo public just hours before the Department of Justice asked a federal judge for a 90-day delay in consent decree proceedings focused on the Baltimore Police Department. Which is really weird that the Department of Justice would do that. If granted, the delay could pause an agreement between the Baltimore Police Department and federal attorneys announced in January before the Trump administration came to office. It's insane. And the DOJ's move in Baltimore, coupled with the release of the Sessions memo, has left many supporters of criminal justice reform worried that a new era is on the horizon, one in which the federal government takes a hands-off approach to reining in institutionalized police abuses on the local level. It's more just institutionalized racism. And it doesn't bode well in Chicago, which is horrifying. I'll put the link to this article below. It's a very lengthy article. But it's a concern, and it's something we should all be paying attention to. But this is something where you do have maybe a little more say on the local level. If Trump wants to obviously petition, as I say numerous times, your senators and Congress people about this, but this is something where you can put more pressure on your local police departments. And I'll leave you with this final quote that Robinson said from the ACLU. Don't even think about the existing consent decrees or the ones that are almost in existence, like in Baltimore and Chicago. Don't think about them at all, he said. Think about what's going to happen going forward. If Jeff Sessions was in charge, there never would have been a Ferguson investigation. Yeah, federal government never would have got involved. That would have happened. There would have been riots and there never would have been an investigation into the Baltimore Police Department. And I don't know if you've read the DOJ report, but it seems to me that any conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat, anybody reading that report would be extremely concerned about the patterns and practices of the Baltimore Police Department. We need oversight. We need checks and balances. Without them, we have problems like many that we're facing today. But it's more just either greed or racism or whatever fueling Trump's deregulation and just keeping his old white base, yeah, let the cops do their job. The cops are good. Think about this. Have you ever, think of the cop. A cop could just bang through that door right now and handcuff me and put me on my knees, put a gun to my head. And there's nothing I could do to stop it. And if I tried to, I'd get shot. A cop can just do that anywhere, anytime, any place. Are there awful criminals out in the world and committing crimes, and do we need police? Yeah, I'm not naive, but that's a lot of power for someone to have. And that needs to be, if a cop just banged in there, oh, sorry, we had wrong information, and I have no recourse, and the federal government isn't going to help me, and my local government isn't going to help me, what do I do then? And imagine now I'm poor and I can't afford a big lawyer. If they do that, I can afford a lawyer. Can't afford a lawyer. What's that guy going to do? Do you see this? Do you see where there's the problem? So I thank you for watching. The Patreon link's below. For $1, as little as $1 a month, you can help the show. For $2 a month, you get access to patron-only posts. $5, you can suggest a topic for me to share. $10 a month, you get a bonus video. $25, we can do a Skype interview like I just did. I released that a couple days ago. So many ways to help support the show, in addition to liking and subscribing and sharing on social media, which I see many of you do, and I think that's awesome. That warms my heart. Thanks for watching.